Donald Trump reacts to the E. Jean Carroll verdict, releasing a video, a campaign statement, and a press release, each one rebutting the mainstream media's narrative that this was a legitimate verdict. Although Donald Trump won the biggest claim against him, he still vows to appeal the others that he lost. This is what Donald Trump said on video, and after the video, we'll take a look at the campaign statement as well as the press release, which is a rebuttal to all of the major claims that you're going to find the media is ecstatic about in most of the mainstream articles. But this is the video coming out from Donald Trump in response to E. Jean Carroll's verdict.
Trump-hating, Clinton-appointed judge who went out of his way to make sure that the result of this trial was as negative as it could possibly be. Speaking to and in control of a jury from an anti-Trump area, which is probably the worst place in the United States for me to get a fair trial. We'll be appealing this decision. It's a disgrace.
Ooh.
I don't even know who this woman is. I have no idea who she is, where she came from. This is another scam. It's a political witch hunt, and somehow we're going to have to fight this stuff. We cannot let our country go into this abyss. This is disgraceful. You have somebody running for office. You have a woman that's financed and lied about it. She totally lied about it by Democrat operatives, like just about the biggest one there is. And she said that wasn't true. They found that she lied about it, and the judge wasn't even, I guess, letting it be put in.
That's right.
As evidence. The whole thing is a scam, and it's a shame, and it's a disgrace to our country.
Trump is right about that. And he was mentioning specifically the fact that the lawsuit was funded by Reid Hoffman, and it was not disclosed during the deposition. E. Jean Carroll was asked who was funding the lawsuit, and she said nobody, to her knowledge. Later on, as you can find at spotlightlawyer.com/Trump on the mind map, Alina Abba, we have the document saved there, got a letter from Roberta Kaplan that said, we listened to the deposition again, and we found that our client's facts that she reported to you are not accurate. We are being funded by somebody called Reid Hoffman. And Alina Abba and her lawyers had to beat it out of the other side to get him to even admit that in a phone call, according to Alina and her letters to the judge. Now, when this was pertinent in the trial, the judge said it is not allowed in as evidence. Of course, we want to know why somebody would be funding a lawsuit. Do they really care about victims of abuse, or are they more interested in pursuing litigation against their political opponents, namely Donald Trump, somebody against whom they have a history of fighting and funding other efforts? But the judge said this wasn't relevant. The jury couldn't hear any of this. And so Trump is exactly right. It is inappropriate to have a verdict when the jury cannot hear the evidence. Now, Trump released other statements as well from Trump's team. They wrote, the Democratic Party's never-ending witch hunt of President Trump hit a new low today. In jurisdictions wholly controlled by the Democratic Party, our nation's system is now compromised by extremely left-wing politics. We have allowed false and totally made-up claims from troubled individuals, to interfere with our elections, doing great damage. Make no mistake, this entire bogus case is a political endeavor targeting President Trump because he is now an overwhelming frontrunner to once again be elected president of the United States. The continued abuse of our great Constitution for political ends is disgusting and cannot be tolerated. Our nation is in serious trouble when claims lacking any evidence or proof or eyewitnesses can invade our courts to score political points. Sadly, for the enemies of American freedom and democracy, President Trump will never stop fighting for the American people, no matter what the radical Democrats dream up next. This case will be appealed, and we will ultimately win. And we talked about some of the bases of an appeal yesterday when we were refreshing our recollection with the Joe Tacopina letter that he sent into the judge, and he said, Your Honor, there are 7 different reasons, 7 different errors in the admission of evidence that you made, and that we're going to be appealing on that basis. And of course, question was, would Trump want to do that? They could just settle this. Trump could just say, okay, here's your $5 million, go away. I'm in the middle of an election. I don't want to go through appeals, and we'll just leave it at that. If he weren't Donald Trump, obviously somebody else might consider that. Trump did not. He decided he would appeal. And in fact, they have also put out a statement explaining and rebutting each of the key points in a campaign press release. Trump's campaign issued a statement rebutting all of E. Jean Carroll's claims and many of the claims that we hear in the media. They posted this. They said, the Democratic Party's never-ending witch hunt hit a new low today. Make no mistake, the entire bogus case will be appealed, and it's being brought only because Trump is the front runner. Now, here are the specific points that they are pushing back on after the verdict. They say, the E. Jean Carroll case is part of the Democrats' vast campaign against Trump. Trump is dominating the polls against Joe Biden, and all Republican primary challengers were winning, and the Trump haters are panicking. The Carroll case was orchestrated and funded by the biggest Trump-hating Democrats in the country. We named Reid Hoffman here, and we know that other people on the plaintiff's witness list who testified at trial said things like Trump is herpes and so on. It was a huge group of people who have a lot of animosity and political bias against Trump. Trump says President Trump has never had any kind of relationship with E. Jean Carroll. They say voter registration of the jury pool for this case favors Democrats by 7-to-1 ratio over Republicans. And if you want to look into those numbers, they've got a link for you here. New York City voter registration data. They say E. Jean Carroll hired the disgraced hypocrite known as Roberta Kaplan to lead her frivolous lawsuit at the urging of Trump hater George Conway. Kaplan, who represented E. Jean Carroll, resigned in disgrace from an organization called Time's Up after it was learned that she was helping Governor Andrew Cuomo, who we know resigned, after facing sexual harassment accusations. Kaplan, the lawyer for Carroll, was forced out of her role. This is according to the New York Times, leading the activist group after it was revealed that she advised the public smearing of a woman who accused the former governor of harassment. They infer, therefore, that this is not about helping women get justice. Why else would they smear that woman? But to stop her from getting justice. So they say her motives for taking this case are purely political. They write, Carroll testified that only after speaking with notorious Trump hater George Conway did she consider suing the president. Washington Examiner quoted this. Tacopina played a part of Carroll's taped deposition from October, in which she recalled her response of no, 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 when people asked her in 2019 if she planned to sue Trump. She said it wasn't until she spoke to Conway, quote, who knew the ins and outs of this, and she decided then to consider suing Trump. She testified, before that, you had no intention of suing Trump? Carroll contended that was correct, saying only after speaking with Conway, she met with a lawyer he recommended and that he was aware of at the time of Conway's anti-Trump disposition. They knew that all of these people were anti-Trump. They say the case was funded by Democrat mega donor and LinkedIn founder Reid Hoffman, somebody we've talked a lot about here. Reid Hoffman, according to Puck News, said, I'll do whatever it takes to defeat Donald Trump. Hoffman made the largest contribution to the Biden-supporting Unite the Country super PAC when it was launched in late 2019. Free Beacon reported this in 2020. They say the Unite the Country PAC launched in October as Biden was posting low fundraising totals. Brought in $4.2 million in Feb, its new record showed. Largest dono came in from Reid Hoffman, who previously apologized for, quote, helping to repair Epstein's reputation. See that? Reid Hoffman, who's funding this litigation, who cares about victims of abuse, was helping to repair Epstein's reputation? What? And for funding a pro-Democrat disinformation campaign in Alabama, according to the Free Beacon. Hoffman admitted to staying overnight at Epstein's Island in Little St. James. He told the Journal he only once visited Epstein's Island's residence, Little St. James, for an MIT fundraising trip. He said he regrets ever meeting with Epstein, and his last interaction with Epstein was in 2015. It gnaws at me that by lending my association, I helped his reputation and thus delayed justice for his survivors, Mr. Hoffman said in an email. I helped his reputation. Do you think he's gonna help Donald Trump's reputation? No. Well, what's the difference here? I don't know. He said he met with Epstein to discuss science projects at universities. Yeah, science projects like little bubbling volcanoes and chemistry experiments. Wow, it turns blue. That's crazy. While I relied on MIT's endorsements, ultimately I made the mistake, he said. I'm sorry for my personal judgment. But he's going to make up for it. Going to get back into good graces by taking out Trump. He continues saying, neither Carroll nor anyone else offered as a witness in the trial could remember the year in the event where this took place. She couldn't recall the date. When do you believe Trump assaulted you? She said, well, the question, the date has been something I've constantly been trying to pin down. No idea. And if you don't know the date, it's hard to defend against the charge. The judge who officiated, the Clinton-appointed judge known as Judge Kaplan, who officiated the wedding of Carroll's co-counsel, excluded key evidence from the trial, namely the funding of the case by Hoffman and the supposed DNA evidence that Carroll claimed she has. Judge Kaplan officiated the wedding of Miss Carroll's attorney, Miss Crowley, another attorney on the case. The judge officiated the wedding. Oh, man. That's according to a document filed in a court on December 9th, 2022. Clinton appointed Judge Lewis Kaplan, who officiated the wedding of Carroll's co-counsel, excluded key evidence of the trial. Amazing. Miss Carroll's story is very similar to a 2012 episode of Law & Order. In evidence, it was revealed that a 2012 Law & Order episode featured a storyline centering on an alleged attack in the dressing room at a Bergdorf Goodman. The episode aired several years after Carroll's allegations and several years prior to her making them and coming forward. There's an episode called Theater and Tricks. Individual talks about it. We played that clip here. According to the Carroll, the two were in the lingerie room and she's aware of the episode, but denied ever watching it. So strange situation here. You see very curious relationships between the judge, all sorts of other problems with the evidence. The case feels like it is corrupt at the start, just based upon the people who were involved in creating it and concocting the whole scheme, but it lands and Donald Trump delivers the campaign statement and a nice rebuttal of all the other allegations and all of the other narratives you'll hear in the media. So that, my friends, is the update on Donald Trump. He promises an appeal, and of course, we will be here continuing to follow. Thank you for subscribing wherever it is you're watching this, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one.